Glenn Maxwell, reverse sweep extraordinaire exponent, if that's a term. It is now. When did you first start doing this caper?
I can specifically remember the first time I ever played it in a game. I reckon I was about 13 or 14 playing a seniors match. The game was already over and we were just batting for a little bit longer. And one of the blokes in the opposition goes, if you're trying to reverse sweep the next one for 6, I'll share you a can of Coke. And I'm like, all right. Tried it, LBW, see you later. But I specifically remember that was the first time I ever tried it in a game. I was like, that was dumb. But we shook hands straight after that ball anyway and walked off. And it was only probably a couple of years later that I started, I think, practicing a little bit more in the nets, and then same thing, shelved it, never played it in games. Not until I probably got a little bit older, started playing, I think for representative cricket, maybe for Victoria or even at Premier level, and didn't really use it that often. It was only once I actually started playing state cricket that I was like, I've got to find ways to score here so I don't just get held down by good bowling, and started practicing it more and more and more, taking on some better bowling, knowing where they were going to bowl. They were more consistent, so I had a better idea of what was happening in front of me, and I think the better the bowling, the easier it is to actually do it. I think the more predictable it is coming down, and the more predictable it is where it's going to be. So I was able to work on it enough away from the actual game stuff, and then when I introduced it in games, it sort of became normalised probably after about 10 or 11 years.
Yeah, it's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn. I got them in the end, and now everyone's trying to do it. So it's it wasn't the cool thing at the start of my career, and now it's probably the flavour of the month.
It is. There's still a threshold of somewhere, but it's a lot higher than what it once was of, can you please not do that? From coaches and, people who are trying to form a developing cricketer in the traditional way. Do you feel that, like, when you were growing up, if you tried it too often, you'd cop a bake from the seniors or the captain or the coach, or was it just something that they allowed you to try and fail at?
Well, I think I had some really good voices behind me at the time. I think I had guys like David Hussey, Brad Hodge, Andrew McDonald, all right in my corner, saying that's the sort of flair and shot making that we actually need to sort of change the way that we're going as a one-day side or T20 side. And they sort of let me do my thing. To be fair, in the Vic side at that stage, I was batting 8 and wasn't really bowling, so I was there more as a sub-fielder, and which was my ideal role at that stage. I absolutely loved that. I was like travelling around as a I suppose professional fielder and having the time of my life. And there's only a couple of times where I actually was really needed to bat and didn't really use it that much. It was only when I started playing for Australia that I started probably using it as much as I did. I remember my first tour against Pakistan in Dubai. I started trying to reverse sweep side Ajmal, and I hadn't really used it all that much in a game, but I was confident in the way that I'd practiced over there in those conditions. The first time I'd been overseas playing cricket in those conditions, in dusty wickets in Sharjah, and so I just sort of start trying to take him on reverse, and my way of thinking was like, I don't know which way it's spinning, but if I can get him off his line, he might think that I do. By sweeping, because I had a shocking sweep shot, but I had a decent reverse, so
Double bluff.
Then they started bowling worse, and I started scoring a bit easier.
What happens when you know you're hitting it well and doing it well? What can you see from the bowler? What is happening out there? Is there more conversations between bowler and wicketkeeper, which makes you believe that I've got to keep doing this because this is really playing with them?
There's stages where sometimes not playing it is worse for the opposition. Like, they'll set a field where they're like, all right, we've covered the reverse. Where's he going to go now? Like, what's he going to do? And sometimes when they don't set a field for it, it's like, oh, you know what, I'm going to play around with them first and almost like hit it into different areas, show them I don't need to play it. And I suppose there's always that cat and mouse where sometimes they're expecting it to happen and the opposition sometimes waiting for you to go to it. And if you don't, it's almost like you get enough bad bowling expecting that it's coming, and it's a great game of cat and mouse, and it's been something that's, I think, over the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've been able to make it a really successful shot consistently and score a lot of runs with it to a point where once I come out to bat, there'll be a field set specifically for the shot, which is exactly the point you want it to get to. And it's one of those things where I worked at it so hard for a long period of time and still made a lot of errors, still got out to it occasionally, but I'm going to get out trying to take the game on in T20 and one-day cricket. I'm going to get out in different areas. I'd rather get out trying to hit a boundary than trying to hit a one. So I think that was one I always was able to justify.
So when you go out there and, they all of a sudden, in the traditional deep gully area, they put 2 there, do you sometimes think to yourself, it's still not going to be good enough today? I can still get this through or over?
Well, as soon as there's 2 inside the ring, I'm not all that worried about it. It's when they probably put the deep, almost third man and a deep point for a spinner that I'm sort of thinking, okay, well, I've either got to hit it flat and I still try and find a gap.
Yeah. I
can't go up as much. And I suppose the thing that I've worked on really hard with reversing is not just having one, just having like 4 or 5 that I can go to in different areas and not sort of, I suppose, just hitting in one spot where it makes it difficult to stop.
Have you ever, in the modern day, then copped it off a coach or a captain? You're just a snide little time and a place, Glenn, when you've walked back in after getting out to it early on?
It was probably more for not playing it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I copped it. I wouldn't say copped it, but I had a bit of a chat with... It was actually Ricky and Cameron White when we were playing in Dallas, and there was a howling wind going to the short boundary, and I was sort of a bit timid in sort of trying to play it, because I was like, you know what, I can still play down the ground. I ended up getting out, and I was filthy that I didn't just take it on and go, you know what, just back yourself to go that way, and I ended up hitting one straight on the air off. Straight in the air off one of the left arm spinners, and it was just the wrong option. Like I should have just kept trying to reverse and backing myself, but that was probably the only time I got a talking to about it.
What did you say?
I said, "Yeah, you're right. I probably should have." Like, because I was playing it in my head. I was like, I really should keep reversing here, because it was a shorter boundary. The wind was going that way. He was trying to jam me up outside leg stump, and all I had to do was turn around and get it up in the air. And
so here's proof. Here's rock solid proof that cricket has entered a different dimension, because you've got one of the finest stroke makers in the history of cricket, Ricky Ponting, in Dallas, telling you off for not playing a reverse sweep. Where, like, if you said that 10 years ago,
it
15 years ago,
probably came more from Cameron White, who and Ricky probably just sort of backed it up. But yeah, Whitey was pretty stern in his thoughts that that's a matchup that you should win, and just get it up in the air.
Still, it's bizarre.
It's amazing, because I suppose those two come from a similar time, where Whitey started in late 90s or probably around 2000, and played a lot of I suppose the back end of Punter's career, and Punter was most of the way through the 90s and the noughties, but he was the two of them worked so well together, and to have that feedback actually made it easier for me at the back end of the tournament, because I started sort of just going, first instinct is this is the right answer, bang, and then that was what I just went with. And you're able to sort of live with your mistakes if you back your first instinct, and I've sort of tried to live it that way in T20 cricket.
Still, there's a few traditionalists, they're diminishing by the day, that go completely cross-eyed when you do this third ball and get out. But anyway, you're prepared to live and die that way.
Sometimes it's all the information that you take in before you get into the ground. I think that's sometimes forgotten. T20 cricket's not a game where you can go, I'm going to give myself 10 to 15 balls, because the game could be gone by the time those 10 to 15 balls. Those 10 to 15 balls, you have a look, you could have lost 2 partners because of the pressure that you've put on them with the run rate going up, and all of a sudden you're in a further hole. You've got to, when you go out there as a new batter, you've got to take the pressure off your partner as much as you possibly can, or get out so someone else can actually take the pressure off him. And I think with that in mind, you're basically you're walking out going, all right, I've seen what the wicket's doing. I've seen the tempo of the game. I know who's bowling. I know who's about to come on. I know what they're going to try and do to me. And that's how you get yourself into a T20 innings. gone are the days where you give yourself 10.
Yeah.
It's like, no. That's your three. The first 3 or 4 balls, you can have 2 or 3, but after that, to hit a couple or get off the mark or whatever you need to do. But after that, it's no, you got to get yourself your team into a better position.
Game on. Just for our younger listeners or our ones who want to have a midlife crisis and start throwing this into their grade cricket repertoire, what technically is key when you know you're going to do it? How premeditated is it as well?
Well, you've got to have an idea of where the field is to start, and then you've got to have an idea of where you want to hit it. So whether you want to go along the ground or in the air, you've got to decide between those two, whether you want to go behind point, really fine, or in front of point. And all 3 of them and those 2 up in the air, they all have different little technical changes. And I've tried to master it into a way where I've got a different reverse sweep for pretty much every degree of from cover all the way to just past the keeper. And,
oh, really?
I feel like I can access basically from cover all the way through to just behind the keeper.
How much of a net are you, like percentage-wise, are you devoting to this shot?
Not a whole lot. I think there's times where I'll hit maybe 10 to 15 throws and I'll work my way around and sort of try different techniques, try different foot positions and see what feels comfortable. And from there, I've just basically gradually worked on it to a point where I feel confident enough that in a game, if they bowl a ball in a certain area and or they're building up a certain amount of pressure, that I can get out of trouble with a reverse in a different part of the ground.
One that springs to mind, one that you've cleared the rope with this shot.
I hit one. There's 2. There's one against a pace bowler in the 2015 World Cup off Shapur, the Afghanistan left arm quick. Bowled one around the wicket, pretty much a perfect Yorker. I sort of opened up my stance a little bit, then didn't move my feet and flicked my hands and like caught it on the face of the bat and got it perfectly over third man for 6. And I just remember hitting it just going, oh, that was absolutely perfect. Like, couldn't have got that any better. And the other one was off Yuzvendra Chahal in Bangalore. He was bowling fast into my legs, and I hit one for 6. And I knew the next one was going to be slower and wider. And as he bowled, I changed my back foot and just let it hover to sort of see where the ball was going to be. And it was real wide. And I then changed my shot because I was going to go over point and just sort of just flick it. And then I ended up going harder over backward point and higher and was able to just absolutely crush this thing. It went so hard and flat into the crowd. And I was like, that was literally the perfect technique for that ball.
How good. You know what's coming now, though? What's the one you want back where you tried it and you went, oh.
Well, there's a bunch. Now you really tested me.
Just one that it's buried in your subconscious somewhere. It might come out on special occasions, but there's a special occasion.
There's probably 2. There's one. I didn't get out to this one, but I got nailed for it for years afterwards. So it was 2014 Dubai, Abu Dhabi in a test match, and I got sent out number 3. And the only reason was, like, we're 1-0 down in this test series in a 2-set series. There is no point in going out there and blocking out for a draw. We're going to try and win this. And you go out, try and put some pressure on them, and if we get close, we might be a chance. So I went out there and just played shots. But people are thinking, why isn't he taking this serious? Why isn't he like giving himself some time? We're not going to get the runs. Like, bat out for a draw. I was like, no, we're not here for that.
Yeah.
There's no test championship points we're playing for. If we lose, it doesn't matter. We need to try and win. So I went out there and played some shots, and I missed a reverse sweep from one of the spinners. And missed leg stump just like by a hair. And I got nailed in that post match by like Kim Hughes, all the ex-players for trying to play a reverse sweep in a test match when we're in all sorts of trouble. And I'm like, you have no idea what's going on. So that's one I just wish I had back. If I had just defended, no one really would have cared. And I got out to Rashid Khan first ball in a Big Bash game. And I hit one just straight to top edge one straight to point. And he carried on. It really irked me. It really irked me. Like, I was just so angry. and just like picked out points so well. Just went, dum, bang. Yeah. That pissed me off.
Well, to end this interview, it blends seamlessly into our unrelated question for the end of this interview. How many times have you watched the innings at the World Cup against Afghanistan?
I reckon I've watched the ball by ball maybe once, because I got sent something that happened on Twitter that I had the ball by ball, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch that. It was like about 20 minutes long, and I was like, good 20 minutes. I reckon I watched the highlights maybe 15 times, I reckon. It was on my Instagram, so I was like, but it's with the Ian Smith commentary, so I was like, it's so good. Like his commentary was so good. Jeez, it was nice. Yeah.
Well, it's a nice one to reflect on when you need pumping up before a game. So
bloody oath.
Good luck this summer.
Especially when you're flat. My God, it's good. It's good to rest on that.
I bet it is. Cheers, Glenn.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.